On November 12, 2007, the small village of Hekou in Jingyao City, Shanxi Province, China, was bustling with unusual activity. A long wedding procession of cars, rumbling with engine noise, was winding its way through the narrow village road. Firecrackers exploded continuously along the route, as if celebrating with the newlyweds. A red carpet stretched for over 7 miles, adding to the already spectacular scene. The whole village seemed to be in a festive mood, with people pouring onto the streets, jostling to get a clear view of this rare spectacle. Although this rural village had witnessed many weddings before, none had ever been as grand as this one. What shocked people the most were the 12 massive Hummers in the wedding procession. While most villagers weren't familiar with car brands, they couldn't help but exclaim, "These cars look so impressive." In 2007, the average annual salary for urban workers in China was only about $3,000. To buy such a car would have taken many years of savings. How could ordinary people afford such a lavish wedding? It turned out this was the wedding of the son of Jingyao City's richest tycoon. Those few cars were just small indulgences. According to local residents, the wedding also invited many popular entertainment stars of the time, such as Jiang Dawei and Ah Bao, to perform. The total cost of the wedding exceeded $1.5 million. The extravagance of the wedding astonished both locals and people across the country. Everyone was exclaiming, "Is this really the world of the upper class?" The image of the 12 Hummers in the wedding procession quickly became one of the top 10 most attention-grabbing news stories nationwide. This wedding was truly flawless in terms of face and material wealth, causing a sensation throughout China. The main character of this wedding was Kou Jingyao, who was only 19 years old at the time. She was escorted by a convoy of 12 Hummers to marry the 20-year-old eldest son of Geng Jianping, the richest man in Jingyao City, Shanxi Province at that time. Setting aside the young age of this couple, what made people curious was, if the bride wasn't an exceptional beauty, then this must be a union of interest between two powerful families. Perhaps this Jingyao was the daughter of some coal mine owner in Shanxi. Kou Jingyao was born on September 24, 1988, in Hekou Village, Jingyao City, Shanxi Province. In fact, she wasn't the daughter of any coal mine owner. Her family was of modest means, relying on her father's income from his frequent work away from home. After Jingyao was born, her father returned to their hometown. With some education, he was hired as a teacher at a local middle school. Jingyao's father loved her dearly. Despite the family's limited finances, he always tried his best to fulfill her every wish. As a middle school teacher, he particularly emphasized his daughter's education. Raised with love and care from her father, Jingyao was a well-behaved and obedient child from a young age. She would always greet acquaintances on the street and warmly and politely welcome guests to their home. She was the model of a good child, loved by all the neighbors. As time passed, Jingyao grew more beautiful. Her large, bright eyes sparkled with intelligence and vivacity. Standing at an ideal height of about 5 feet 5 inches with a slim, well-proportioned figure, she quickly became known as the beauty of Hekou Village. Everyone privately acknowledged her as the village belle. Entering high school, Jingyao met Geng Weilong, the man who would become her husband. As the son of a wealthy family in Jingyao City, Weilong was the complete opposite of the well-behaved Jingyao. He stood out at school with his extravagant lifestyle, frequently causing trouble and always arriving in luxury cars. Jingyao's pure beauty quickly caught Weilong's attention. Although he usually showed little interest in studying, like many young men his age, he couldn't help but be attracted to a beautiful and self-reliant girl like Jingyao. Typically, a girl like Jingyao wouldn't fall into a romantic relationship so early. Perhaps it was because she had been a good girl for so long that she had suppressed her natural instincts, or maybe it was because opposites often attract. Whatever the reason, Jingyao also began to take notice of Weilong. And so, like water flowing downstream, they gradually grew closer. What was more surprising was that both families not only didn't interfere with this relationship, but showed enthusiastic support. In 2007, when Jingyao was just 19 years old, an age when she should have been engrossed in college studies, both families had already begun discussing marriage plans. Many people would wonder, clearly Jingyao came from an ordinary family with nothing particularly outstanding, so why was she so valued by her husband's family that they were willing to spend millions of dollars to welcome her as a bride? The two families chose November 12th as the wedding day. This date was decided by Geng Jianping himself, Jingyao's father-in-law and the richest man in Kou Jingyao City. At that time, Jianping was in the process of preparing to build a new factory, but things weren't going smoothly. Surprisingly, from the moment they set the wedding date with the Kou family, everything suddenly began to go incredibly well. Even more remarkably, on the very day Jingyao and Weilong officially became husband and wife, the new factory also had its grand opening, seeming like a good omen for future prosperity. Such a joyous occasion naturally called for a grand celebration. From then on, Jianping viewed Jingyao as a lucky star for the family. Therefore, welcoming a lucky star into the family certainly had to be done with great pomp and circumstance. Moreover, Geng Jianping deliberately chose his newly built factory as the venue for the wedding ceremony. From Jingyao's home to the wedding venue, the entire route was covered with red carpet, stretching for over 7 miles. Even the hills, trees, and railings along the bridal procession's path were decorated with red ribbons, lanterns, colorful lights, and pink tulle, creating a dazzling spectacle. The bridal convoy wasn't just limited to the 12 Hummers. The Hummers were merely supporting actors. Leading the procession were 2 intricately decorated dragon and phoenix-themed cars. Following the 12 Hummers were hundreds of Mercedes-Benz and BMW vehicles, forming a line so long that its end was out of sight. The wedding's master of ceremonies was a famous host from the local television station. The reception following the ceremony was equally lavish, with head chefs from the Jiangnan Culinary Group in Taiwan personally preparing the dishes. A team of professional staff served the guests, with a total of 160 banquet tables. According to village residents, the wedding guests were all wealthy or powerful figures, each arriving in luxury cars. The vehicles clogged the roads near the wedding venue, from small village lanes all the way to the town, creating an impressive line stretching for 4 to 5 miles. On this momentous day, Jianping wanted to spread the joy far and wide, so he arranged for an extended fireworks display. These fireworks weren't cheap, estimated to cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nevertheless, a wedding costing millions of dollars was seen as excessively luxurious and wasteful. As a result, there was no shortage of criticism. In fact, under pressure from public opinion, the Kou Jingyao city authorities even had to hold a special meeting to condemn such extravagance. However, as you might understand, Jianping, known as the richest man in the area, was naturally one of the biggest taxpayers. Who could do anything to him? The wealthy not only have money, but also wield considerable behind-the-scenes power, which is self-evident. The lavishness of the wedding showcased the wealth of the Geng family. At that time, the family's total assets likely exceeded $150 million. However, the methods used to amass this enormous fortune were far from as clean as the glittering exterior of the wedding suggested. Behind the veil of luxury and splendor lay a story riddled with shady dealings and illegal activities. Geng Jianping, this famous and influential tycoon, was originally just a poor boy from an ordinary farming family. Moreover, he was an adopted child, raised by his adoptive parents, who were actually his grandparents. That year, because his adoptive parents couldn't have children of their own, they adopted Jianping from his birth family. When asked about the reason for organizing such a grand wedding for his son, he frankly shared, "We were too poor when I was young. Now I just want my son to have a taste of luxury." Geng Jianping was the 4th child in his birth family, nicknamed Si Xin, which he later used to name his companies. Coming from a humble rural family, his life from childhood was marked by deprivation. His clothes were all hand-me-downs from adults, patched up. Daily meals were meager, often just watery soups. However, this harsh environment didn't make Jianping hardworking or patient. Instead, it made his restless heart even more unsettled. He dropped out of school in 2nd grade and spent his days loitering with other children. His daily life could be summed up as petty theft. Sometimes he would sneak into people's gardens to steal sweet potatoes or apples. Other times he would steal chickens to roast and eat. Over time, Jianping's daring increased. At 18, a bold idea came to him. His target this time was the steel from a metallurgical factory. He planned to steal it and sell it for cash. To ensure his plan wouldn't fail, Jianping secretly observed for half a month to understand the guards' positions, surveillance situations, and the layout of the area. One night, Jianping snuck into the factory under the cover of darkness. He stole several blocks of steel and escaped through a drainage pipe in a corner of the factory. This theft gave him a taste of success. He thought, if I take a little each time, it will add up, and I won't get caught while making some pocket money. However, if you want others not to know, unless you don't do it yourself. After some time, when the factory manager was taking inventory, he discovered that a significant amount of steel was missing and reported it to the police. After investigation, the police identified Geng Jianping as the main culprit and immediately arrested him. Faced with police interrogation, he didn't try to hide anything and admitted to everything. He thought, stealing just a few blocks of steel isn't a big deal. If I confess voluntarily, I'll probably be detained for a few days and then released. But the law was strict, and Geng Jianping was sentenced to several years in prison. After his release from prison, all of Geng Jianping's social connections were severed. Without education, he couldn't find an easy job. He knew that if he wanted to make a lot of money, he couldn't follow the normal path because the most profitable ways to make money are all written in the criminal code. Those years coincided with the booming coal industry in Shanxi, and many people became wealthy because of it. Geng Jianping saw this and became envious. But at this point, he had nothing, so where could he get the money to buy a mine? He racked his brains day and night and finally came up with a clever plan. He collaborated with his siblings to search for mines. Not long after, they found an unexploited coal mine behind a mountain. Without caring whether it was public property or not, they directly seized the coal mine. Then, he and his siblings pooled money to buy some mining tools and began extracting coal. After some time, they made a substantial amount of money. Geng Jianping went from a petty thief to a coal mine owner in Shanxi. Seeing that this mine was nearly depleted, he went looking for his next target. He spent money on several tons of explosives for blasting mountains, then casually placed them around the surrounding hills. With earth-shattering explosions, several shallow coal seams were exposed on the surface. These coal mines brought significant profits to Jianping. However, at the same time, due to operating without a business license and tax evasion, he was once again arrested and imprisoned. But this time, he was no longer the poor boy from before. He used money to build connections and was released in less than a month. This prison experience made Geng Jianping realize the situation. He believed that to make money, having guts alone wasn't enough. What mattered was having someone to back you up. After careful research, Geng Jianping found his support in Jiang Xinming. This Jiang Xinming was truly a figure with an extraordinary background, known by several notable nicknames. Shanxi's #1 coal baron, a key figure in Taiyuan's underworld, and more. He wielded significant influence in Shanxi, not only being wealthy but also possessing an extensive network of connections. After aligning with Jiang Xinming, Jianping became acquainted with many influential big brothers. Through paying protection money and giving lavish gifts, he finally obtained a coal mining business license and even registered several more mines. Just as Geng Jianping's hometown was about to merge villages and elect a new village chief, he thought this was a good opportunity. He could receive a government salary while having the chance to acquire more mines. If he could secure the position of village chief, making money in the future would be even easier. To get elected as village chief, Jianping began using various tactics. He led a group of his subordinates to visit each household, carrying $15,000 in cash. He promised the villagers that if he was elected, he would give each household a $90 bonus. At that time, the honest farmers who couldn't earn $90 even in a year happily agreed. Finally, Geng Jianping got his wish and was elected village chief. However, he blatantly betrayed his promise. Some villagers felt indignant and went to his house to demand what he had promised, but they were severely scolded by Geng Jianping and driven away mercilessly. From then on, Geng Jianping became the village tyrant, with villagers calling him a thug and a scoundrel behind his back. After becoming village chief, Geng Jianping abused his position for personal gain and to harm the villagers. Because newly mined coal contains many impurities and is dry and dusty, it needs to be washed with water. He directly used the village's only ancient well to wash coal, polluting the water source and making it unusable for the villagers. Out of desperation, villagers had to travel to a neighboring village several miles away to buy water at high prices. Later, as coal production increased, seeing that the water from the ancient well was not enough to meet the mine's needs, he directly seized a large area of villagers' land to build another coal washing plant to expand operations. What angered people even more was that Geng Jianping built a luxurious cemetery behind the coal washing plant. This was not only a cemetery he built for the Geng clan, but he also sold plots at high prices to local villagers. Taking land from the people and then selling it back to them at high prices for profit, Geng Jianping's behavior could be described as inhumane. Besides coal mines, he also targeted the transportation industry in Kou Jingyao City. In 2007, a Mr. Ma in Kou Jingyao City spent over $150,000 to buy 4 large buses, intending to use them for long-distance routes. Knowing that the profit from this business was very high, Geng Jianping wanted to monopolize it for himself. So he started using his connections to create difficulties in Mr. Ma's application for operating permits. Left with no choice, Mr. Ma had to give up. At this point, Geng Jianping approached Mr. Ma, using the excuse of recouping capital to buy back the buses at a low price. Mr. Ma, thinking he couldn't get the permits anyway, agreed. So Geng Jianping started hiring people to run long-distance routes. Sometime later, Mr. Ma saw that Geng Jianping had obtained permits and thought he could now apply for them too, so he bought 2 or 3 more buses to apply for permits. After obtaining the permits, Mr. Ma also started operating a passenger bus service. At this point, Geng Jianping believed Mr. Ma was deliberately competing with him, so he sent his men to beat Mr. Ma and damage his vehicles. This forced Mr. Ma to withdraw from the transportation industry. After that, Geng Jianping continued to act recklessly and do as he pleased. His crimes were truly unforgivable. A wedding costing over $1.5 million caused much discussion among the local people. There were mixed opinions about Kou Jingyao, but the gossip belonged to others. Only happiness belonged to herself. Jingyao's married life began from here. When she first entered the Geng family, her father-in-law, Mr. Jianping, arranged for Jingyao to work as an accountant at his group. Because his son Wei Long was fond of playing and spent all day carousing outside without coming home, Geng Jianping entrusted all important work to his daughter-in-law to manage. To encourage Jingyao to have children, Geng Jianping promised to reward her $300,000 for giving birth to a son and $150,000 for a daughter. Although in Chinese historical culture, bearing children to continue the family line is considered a good thing, such excessive reward gradually blinded Jingyao with money. She could receive a large sum of money for each child she bore. In the end, she gave birth to 2 boys and 2 girls for the Geng family, receiving $900,000 in rewards. Because her daily work was quite leisurely, she used the money to travel and shop everywhere. During one audit of the books, Jingyao discovered that the family's business wasn't entirely legal, with most of it being dirty money. This shocked her tremendously. She could have withdrawn at that point, but the habit of luxurious spending had already formed. In the end, she chose to go along with it and continue the wrongdoing. Due to her strong work capabilities, Jingyao was quickly promoted by her father-in-law to financial director. From then on, she began managing the finances of the entire family business. The more money she earned, the darker her heart became, because the money was obtained through illegal activities, oppressing people, and embezzling public funds. As the saying goes, one takes on the color of one's company. Jingyao, having been in this environment for a long time, was also influenced by violent behaviors, which affected her personality. One day, while walking with her child on the street, an elderly man pushing a tricycle came from the opposite direction. Perhaps due to his old age and weakness, he couldn't control the vehicle well, causing it to slightly veer off course and bump into the child. The old man immediately apologized, but Jingyao wouldn't let it go. She berated the old man harshly and even had her subordinates beat him up, causing him to be hospitalized. Kou Jingyao's behavior was truly disheartening. When she entered such a family, she naturally stepped into a large dye vat. No matter how white she was, she would be dyed black. However, paper cannot wrap up a fire forever. Although the gang family had power and influence, they could only cover up a corner of the sky in Gujiao City. Even though the family could monopolize industries in the local area, in the end, it was illegal business. The gangs could act recklessly for a while, but not forever. From 2008, the state discovered that many people were illegally exploiting mineral resources for huge profits without permission. This led to a significant decrease in national mineral resources, causing losses to state assets, hindering local economic development, and affecting the quality of life of local residents. From that year, the authorities began to crack down on illegal coal mines. Although many criminals were caught, there were also many people with extensive connections who always managed to evade strict inspections. Geng Jianping was one of them. He relied on his positions as village chief, party secretary, and representative of the Gujiao City People's Congress to cover up his crimes. Not only did he avoid arrest, but he also obtained several more coal mining contracts and even bought the mining rights to some illegal mines that had been sealed by the government at low prices. Once, due to overexploitation, one of Geng Jianping's coal mines caused land subsidence and a landslide. Someone discovered it and immediately reported it to the authorities. People thought they could finally catch Geng Jianping's entire gang, but he once again used money to smooth things over, using the excuse of digging drainage channels to resolve this crisis. There was no further action after that. Kou Jingyao had always been very careful in her actions. After this incident was reported, she began to educate her subordinates not to cause trouble. Geng Jianping also started to act more low-key. For the next few years, the gang family didn't cause any major incidents. Until 2014, Geng Jianping's backing collapsed. Jiang Xinming was arrested and imprisoned for gang-related activities and money laundering. Those behind him were also caught in one fell swoop. Geng Jianping lost all his connections and his business faced obstacles. After many gang-related individuals were successively arrested and imprisoned, the people who had been bullied by the gang family finally stopped remaining silent. They began to stand up and sign petitions denouncing Geng Jianping. In May 2018, the Taiyuan City Police Department received an anonymous letter of accusation. The public accused Geng Xixin, i.e., Geng Jianping, a representative of the Gujiao City People's Congress, of violent behavior. This accusation letter immediately attracted the attention of the Taiyuan police. They promptly sent people to investigate. During the investigation, the police collected a substantial amount of evidence. A total of 25 gang-related suspects were arrested. In this operation, the police solved over 130 serious cases including organizing, leading, and participating in criminal gang organizations, illegal mining, illegal occupation of agricultural land, intimidation, and many other incidents. The business empire that the Geng family had built since 1996 finally collapsed in this purge. After Geng Jianping and Geng Weilong were arrested, Kou Jingyao took a large sum of money and began to flee. The Ministry of Public Security directly put her on the Class A wanted list and offered a reward of $15,000 for her capture. This time, even if Kou Jingyao had wings, she could hardly escape. After some time of tracking and investigation, they finally discovered Kou Jingyao's whereabouts and promptly reported it. One day in 2019, after 8 hours of stakeout, the police finally spotted Kou Jingyao at a high-end apartment complex in Taiyuan City. They immediately arrested her and took her to the police station. When arrested, she was dressed fashionably, wearing Hermes slippers. Surprisingly, this once wealthy lady of Shanxi seemed very calm when arrested. She smiled, maintaining her elegance, as if she had enjoyed all the pleasures in the world and had nothing left to regret. At this point, 10 months had passed since her father-in-law Geng Jianping and husband Geng Weilong were arrested. Finally, on October 22, 2019, the Taiyuan City People's Court sentenced Geng Jianping to 25 years in prison. His son, Geng Weilong, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Both had their personal assets confiscated. The remaining members of the criminal group were also sentenced to various punishments. As for Kou Jingyao, after her arrest, her case was to be handled separately. According to reports, among Geng Jianping's bus business income, the route from Gujiao to Taiyuan was controlled by Jingyao. Considering that sealing the buses would affect people's travel, the bus routes originally managed by Kou Jingyao would now be entrusted by the government to another transportation company for operation. After Geng Jianping's arrest, the coal washing plant at the entrance of the village ceased operations. The iron gate in front was damaged, and the plant area was full of stagnant water. The 4-story office building opposite was also empty. On the hillside, 2 large excavators of the Xixin group were abandoned on an empty plot, surrounded by overgrown weeds. Slogans about cracking down on crime and eliminating evil could be seen everywhere in the village. Looking back at Kou Jingyao's entire story, one can't help but feel melancholic. From a beautiful 19-year-old girl, escorted by 12 Hummers to her wedding amidst everyone's admiration, to becoming a Class A wanted criminal, stepping into a police car wearing Hermes slippers. Her life was like a drama, full of unexpected turns. Kou Jingyao's story is a profound lesson on how money and power can change a person. It also reminds us that shortcuts to wealth and power often come with unforeseen prices to pay. No matter how difficult life may be, the path of integrity is always the most sustainable one. And that concludes our story for today. What are your thoughts on this tale? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our future videos. We'll see you in the next one.